This is another sign of the times, an analysis, and a commentary. Thousands of North Korean inmates of Camp Number 22, one of Kim Jong-un's most brutal labor camps, have disappeared. There are fears that up to 20,000 people may have been allowed to die of disease or starvation in the run-up to the closure of the camp at the end of last year. The suspicion has emerged from a newly released report by the Committee for Human Rights in North Korea, HRNK, detailing the situation in penal colonies as Kim Jong-un consolidated his power after taking over as leader from his father. Now the group is demanding an inquiry into their fate. The Washington-based organization gleans information from defectors from the North, including former guards and the occasional survivor of a prison camp, as well as examining satellite imagery. It focused much of its attention on Camp 22, a vast compound that sprawled across more than 770 square miles, making it larger than London. The report, North Korea's Hidden Gulag, interpreting reports of changes in the prison camps, reveals that 2 camps have been shut down in the last year, but that 130,000 individuals are still being held in penal labor colonies across the country. Through this vast system of unlawful imprisonment, the North Korean regime isolates, banishes, punishes, and executes those suspected of being disloyal to the regime. The report states they are deemed wrong thinkers, wrongdoers, or those who have acquired wrong knowledge or have engaged in wrong associations. Detainees are relentlessly subjected to malnutrition, forced labor, and to other cruel and unusual punishment, the report says, with thousands more forcibly held in other detention faculties. North Korea denies access to the camps to outsiders, whether human rights investigators, scholars, or international media, and severely restricts the circulation of information across its borders. The study added, at Camp Number 22, in the far northeast of the country, the prison population shrank dramatically in the months before its closure, probably in December 2012. Reports suggest that a severe food shortage meant that little was passed on to inmates and that numbers dwindled rapidly from 30,000 to 3,000. Defectors told investigators that as many as 8,000 prisoners may have been transferred to other camps in North Korea's network of gulags, but there are no suggestions that any inmates were released, implying that they may have perished. North Korea's 2009 currency devaluation, whereby camp authorities were reportedly unable to purchase food in markets to supplement the crops grown in the camps, combined with bad harvests, resulted in the death of large numbers of prisoners after 2010, the report states. If even remotely accurate, this is an atrocity requiring much closer investigation. A United Nations Commission of Inquiry held hearings late last month to examine reports of human rights abuses in the North, including the abduction of foreign nationals. The co-chairman of HRNK called for the International Red Cross to be granted access to the camps as soon as possible. An accounting of the fate and whereabouts of all of North Korea's political prisoners, including those missing and those who have died in detention, should be of highest priority to the United Nations Commission of Inquiry and the entire international community. the organization has stated, but it fears the North Korean regime will attempt to erase evidence of atrocities or eliminate surviving prisoners. Very few North Koreans who have managed to escape from prison camps and to freedom outside the country's borders, but those who have tell of terrible suffering. Inmates who can be imprisoned for life, along with 3 generations of their families, for anything deemed to be critical of the regime, are forced to survive by eating frogs, rats, and picking corn kernels out of animal waste. Activists say that as many as 40% of inmates die of malnutrition, while others succumb to disease, sexual violence, torture, abuse by the guards, or are worked to death. Men, women, and children are required to work for up to 16 hours a day in dangerous conditions, often in mines or logging camps. Anyone sent to a North Korean labor camp is unlikely to ever leave again, analysts say, while a failed attempt to escape brings execution. A recent report by South Korea's National Human Rights Commission suggests that the majority of inmates were caught attempting to flee the country in search of food or work instead of being incarcerated for their political beliefs. Others were detained after being overheard praising South Korea. So, in other words, while the world is concentrated on the people in Syria being gassed, these so-called prisoners in North Korea are being ignored by the world in some kind of way. Here is the real threat. New satellite photographs showing steam emerging from a newly reconstructed nuclear reactor in North Korea suggest that the country may be making good on its promise to resume the production of plutonium for its small nuclear arsenal 6 years after it reached an agreement with the BUSH administration to dismantle the faculty. The discovery of the new activity at the nuclear complex was reported by the U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University, which follows the North's nuclear program closely. If the source of the steam proves to be the restarting of the reactor, it would enable the North, after a year or more, to begin to add to its current arsenal of plutonium weapons. It would also underscore the failure of efforts by 4 American presidents to stop the North Korean program. So far, the North has conducted 3 nuclear tests, including 2 during the Obama administration. In other words, the real threat to the world is the use of nuclear weapons again. And all these things are more signs of the end of times as we know them, transition days, which is a time of extraordinary happenings, changes, and events. Because, again, it's about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations? And that should be a very important question to ask. Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the 4th angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. 10. And the 5th angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom or nation was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. 11. And blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings or leaders of the east might be prepared. 13. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. 14. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings and leaders of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. 15. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. 16. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. It's time for the physical and spiritual manifestation of the book of Revelation, and all these are more signs